Long ago, in a small village called Prex Bove in Cambodia, a boy named Saloth Sar was born. You might know him better as Pol Pot. His life story is full of surprises and scary events. Let's find out how he went from a regular kid to one of the most feared leaders of the 20th century. Saloth Sar, who later became known as Pol Pot, grew up in a wealthy family in Prex Bove, Cambodia. His dad, Saloth Fem, was a successful farmer, and his mom, Sok Nem, was a devoted Buddhist. Because his family was well off, Ser got to be a young monk at Vat Bodum Vade in the big city of Phnom Penh. There he learned about Buddhism and followed strict rules. Later, he went to a Catholic school, and even though he wasn't great at schoolwork, he loved playing sports like football and basketball. Even when he struggled in school, Sar's family connections helped him get into good schools. In 1949, he got a big chance to study engineering in Paris, France. This was a huge deal because not many kids from Cambodia got to go to school so far away. His journey to Paris would change his life forever, but not in the way you might think. Paris in the late 1940s was a bustling city full of students from Cambodia who were eager to make a difference. Sar, now going by the name Pol Pot, joined groups like the Khmer Student Association and a secret club called the Circle Marxisti. These groups talked about big ideas and how to change the world. Pol Pot said he believed in something called Marxist-Leninist ideas, but he didn't really understand them very well. What really drove Pol Pot was his love for Cambodia and his dream to see it free from French rule. He wanted Cambodia to be independent and strong. His time in Paris changed him. He became more passionate about his beliefs and ready to fight for them. This was just the beginning of his journey to becoming a revolutionary leader. Little did he know, his actions would one day shake the very foundations of his homeland. In 1952, Pol Pot returned to Cambodia, a country on the edge of a big fight. King Sihanouk was in charge, but many people were unhappy with his rule. Pol Pot joined a small group of communists who wanted to change things. This group would later become known as the Khmer Rouge. Pol Pot was determined to help his country become free and independent. He worked hard to rise through the ranks of the Communist Party. By the late 1950s, he was an important figure in the fight against King Sihanouk's government. Pol Pot believed that Cambodia could be better if it was ruled differently. He wanted to help the poor farmers and make the country strong. His journey was just beginning, and he was ready to do whatever it took to see his dreams come true. The 1960s were a tough time for Cambodia. The Khmer Rouge, with Pol Pot as one of its leaders, grew stronger. In 1968, a terrible civil war started. This war lasted until 1975 and was very bloody. The Khmer Rouge fought against the government, which was supported by the United States. Pol Pot and his friends were helped by the Viet Cong and China. Pol Pot used clever tactics and made smart alliances. For a short time, he even worked with King Sihanouk to fight against the government. The Khmer Rouge gained control over large parts of the country. People were scared and many suffered. The war was long and hard, but Pol Pot and his fighters kept pushing forward. Finally, in 1975, the Khmer Rouge won the war and took over the capital city, Phnom Penh. This was a big moment for Pol Pot. He was now in charge, and he had big plans for Cambodia. But little did the people know, the real trouble was just about to begin. With Pol Pot in charge, Cambodia changed in scary ways. He wanted to create a country where everyone was equal and worked on farms. This might sound nice, but it wasn't. People from cities were forced to move to the countryside and work in harsh conditions. They were treated badly, and many didn't have enough food. Pol Pot was very suspicious and didn't trust anyone. He thought people were against him, so he had many killed. Even smart people, like teachers and doctors, were targeted. He also didn't like foreigners or people who were different. Many Chinese and Muslim people in Cambodia were hurt or killed. The Khmer Rouge set up terrible places called the killing fields. Here, many people were killed in horrible ways. Even kids were forced to do bad things. It was a time of great fear and sadness. Nearly 1 out of every 4 people in Cambodia died during this time. Pol Pot's rules were very strict. Schools taught only what the government wanted, and many teachers were killed. Hospitals didn't work well because many doctors were also killed. Money was no longer used, and people had to trade things to get what they needed. Cambodia became very isolated from the rest of the world. Pol Pot's dream of a perfect country turned into a nightmare for everyone. In 1978, Vietnam invaded Cambodia to stop the Khmer Rouge. Pol Pot and his followers had to hide in the jungles. They kept fighting, but their power was fading. Even though some countries still supported the Khmer Rouge, they were losing the fight. Pol Pot's health got worse, and he had to step back from leading. In 1997, his own party put him under house arrest. He was very sick and didn't have long to live. In 1998, Pol Pot died. Some people think he might have killed himself to avoid being caught. The Khmer Rouge finally ended in 1999. Cambodia was free from their terrible rule, but the country was left with many problems. The years of Pol Pot's control had caused so much pain and suffering that it would take a long time for Cambodia to heal. Pol Pot's rule was one of the worst in history. Millions of people suffered and died. Cambodia was left with many problems, like landmines, and a broken society. His actions showed the world how bad things can get when a leader has too much power and bad ideas. Pol Pot's name will always be remembered for the pain and destruction he caused. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to Whimsy Stories, give it a like, and share it with your friends.